Hello, it's Mr. Bush, and today we're going to talk about the lunar cycle. Here is some key information to write down before we get started. Basically, the lunar cycle is 29.5 days. Each phase of the lunar cycle is approximately 3.5 days, and the moon cannot create the light itself. It has to reflect light from the sun, kind of like a mirror. And one last thing. Anytime y'all start thinking about the term month, it originally came from, well, our lunar cycle. Alright, let's go ahead and start looking at each phase of our moon. Now, the first thing you need to basically be able to figure out is waxing versus waning. Waxing means it's getting bigger, meaning the light is basically, the moon is going to be getting bigger throughout this phase of the cycle. Whereas waning means it's going to be getting smaller, decreasing, meaning the darkness is basically going to be moving across the moon, and as the cycle goes along, the moon will be getting smaller. So go ahead and write this down, but the first thing you need to do is always look at the right side. You are always looking at the right side. So on both of these, you are looking at the right side. Cannot emphasize that enough. If you see light, then it is going to be waxing. However, if you see darkness, that makes it waning. So if you look down there, the waxing phases have light on the right side. However, our waning phases have darkness on the right side. So you always look at the right side: light, waxing, darkness, waning. Alright, let's go ahead and move on to our next thing. Now, typically we like to start off with the new moon because it makes it easier to count basically each of the phases in order. So the new moon, we start off at 0 days. It takes about 3.5 days for our waxing crescent. Now if you notice, the light is going to be on our right here. And then, after another 3.5 days, it transitions over to our first quarter. Now once again, you'll notice that the light is on the right and it's getting bigger. During the waxing phase, the light is always getting bigger, or it's growing. And then to our waxing gibbous. Now if you notice, a gibbous is almost a full moon. However, it still has just a little bit of darkness left to go. And then at 14 days, you're all the way up to a full moon. Full moon is basically completely lit. And then it starts to get smaller. Basically, if you look here at our waning gibbous, the darkness is on the right. That's what makes it waning. And it's getting smaller. Now as the cycle goes along, it basically is going to get smaller and smaller until it returns back to our new moon. So if you look here at our last, or sometimes it's called our third quarter, it's almost half of it's dark, half of it's light. And then you're back to our waning crescent, and then in another 3.5 days it'll go back to our new moon, completing the cycle, and then it starts all over again. Alright, now this is a model that's commonly used to kind of show how the light is being reflected from our sun back to Earth. Now if you look here at the new moon, the light comes from the sun, hits the moon, and then bounces back out. And someone on Earth wouldn't be able to see it. That's why the moon looks completely dark. Now if you look here on our waxing crescent, most of the light is reflected back out, but just a little sliver of it, okay, hold on a second. However, just a small portion of it is reflected at the right angle for people on Earth to be able to see it, thus giving it kind of that crescent shape. Now on our quarter moon, basically half of the light is reflected back to Earth, while the other half is still in darkness. Now if you look here at our waxing gibbous, basically the majority of it, the light, is reflected back to the Earth, which is why it looks almost full. However, a small portion of it is still in darkness. And then once we get to our full moon, with our full moon, 100% of the light is reflected back to the Earth, which is why it looks full. And then as the moon starts to go into our second phase over here, our waning phase, you can kind of see where the angle, where more and more of it basically is dark, less and less of the light is getting reflected back to the earth. Alright, hopefully that was kind of helpful for you to be able to visualize how the light is reflected back to the earth. And we'll show y'all one more study technique and then we're done. Alright, when trying to predict basically how many days into a lunar cycle something is, or whenever you're dealing with a picture kind of like this, I want y'all to break it up kind of the way people did back when they used the lunar cycle to kind of keep track of months and that sort of thing. Basically break it into quarters, like our new moon, first quarter, second quarter, full moon, last quarter, back to new moon. Basically, if you divide it into 4 quarters, that allows you to basically track it by each quarter is equal to 1 week. So if you look here, from our new moon to our first quarter, that's 7 days. From our first quarter to our full moon, that's another 7 days, or another week. Then from our full quarter to our third quarter moon, that's going to be 3 weeks, or 21 days. And then back to the original place, it'll be 28 days. Alright, well hopefully this was helpful. Y'all have a great day.